one day I actually had some dilemmas and I didn't know what to choose. And so I went to my dad and I asked him, what do you think I should be doing? And so he took a coin out of his pocket and he said, I'm going to flip the coin. And before the coin drops, you make the decision. So the importance here is that we actually do know what's the right decision. Our gut feeling works very, very well. But sometimes we don't have, we are looking for confirmation. We're looking for someone else to support the decision. A flipping coin is supporting the decision. And the last one is actually very interesting. So I'm here for a Avaya conference. And this is the reason why I came to Mexico this time. And the CEO of Avaya is Kevin Kennedy. And Kevin Kennedy was the COO of OpenWave when I was running the product marketing there. And that was like 15 years ago. And he always used to say, today is the first day of the rest of our life. And so stop thinking about the past, start thinking about the future in order to make the right decisions. So maybe a word about fundraising, and this is very interesting because we tend to think differently about that. And so a few months ago, I went to one of the largest venture capitals in Israel, and I spoke with the managing partner, and I asked him, how long does it take you to decide if you like the entrepreneur or not? And so he asked me, okay, do you want the right answer or do you want the real answer? I said, I want the real answer. And so the guy is looking at me and then looking at the door and looking at me again. And he said, before they sit down. This is how fast it takes us to make decisions. So, first impression works every time, right? It doesn't matter if this is a date or this is an investment or this is a person that we don't know or this is a candidate that we're looking to recruit. The first impressions is very, very dramatic. And after that, we might have a few minutes to either change it or let it sink. And so this is why we always going to start with the strongest point at the beginning, whatever it is, right? So maybe it's the team, maybe it's the traction that we have, maybe it's the size of the problem. Whatever it is, we start with that. Now, what we also need to take into consideration that investors are also users. If they don't think that they are going to use that, they're not going to invest. Very, very rare cases that they would actually do that. Now, if they're not the audience, then they would need to think of someone that is the audience. And imagine that this user is actually going to use that. If they don't see the use case, they're not going to use that. They're not going to invest. And maybe equally important is learning how to tell a good story. Now, a good story is not about the details. It's not about the facts. It's not about the logic. It's about emotional engagement. You create emotional engagement and people would follow. Usually, if I would start with a WAZE story, then I would speak about traffic jams and how frustrated it is and how much time we are using there. So I will create the emotional engagement that people think about the problem. And it's usually about the problem, not about the solution. So disruption. I hear disruption technology together so many times, but it's not about technology. No one cares about technology. It's about changing the way we are doing business. It's about changing behaviors. So I want you to think about disruption as changing market equilibrium, which could be because of a new product that is being introduced to the market. And maybe it's a result of a new technology, but not necessarily. So what is the technology behind Uber? It's not. It's a different model. Right? Could be because of the price, right? So WAZE was free. And everyone else was actually trying to charge a lot of money for that. And if you're free, then you change the market behavior. Maybe it's a new business model. And maybe you establish new knowledge that otherwise was not available in the market. And as a result, either the demand or the supply changes dramatically and you change the market equilibrium. And in a lot of cases, disruptors, they are newcomers. They are coming from the outside of the market. They have nothing to lose. If you have something to lose, if you're an existing player in the market, you're not going to disrupt. And the reason is that the change is too scary for you. For multiple reasons. Number one, you look at it from the business perspective and then you say, okay, but if I'm charging money for that and I'm going to offer it differently, then I don't have revenues tomorrow morning, which is scary enough by itself. The other part is that organizations are not good in disruptions. Because just imagine all the experts within the organizations and you tell them, you know what, everything that we've done so far is totally wrong, we're going to do something else. They are going to object. They would like to remain the experts. And this is exactly what happened to Nokia or to many other industries, and I'll use some examples there. Some markets that are calling for disruptions, a middleman or a market with lack of information is actually calling for disruption. In particular, in today's world, it's very easy to find the information and very easy to make it accessible. Regulation that does not work. Right? So just imagine that if you travel to Europe and you buy something there, you're actually entitled to get the VAT refund back. The VAT in Europe is between 20 to 25%, so it's quite a lot of money. Turns out that only 5% of the money is being claimed. 95% of the cases, people don't even bother. Now, if you try that, then you know why, right? So you go there, and so one day I came to this Global Blue office, and I handed them form, and they said, okay, but you need to stamp the custom. Okay, great. Where is the custom? Oh, that's before security. Right, exactly. So anyone remember that the line was 100 people there, or they came to the office and they said, but these are the wrong forms, right? Or something bad happened there. So this is, by the way, an indication what is my next startup. I'm going to solve that. We spoke about that. Disruption in general is very good. So imagine that when we disrupt a market, we're going to get a new market equilibrium that by definition is better than the previous one, because otherwise the market will not go there. Better than the previous one means that this is probably going to be a bigger market at a lower price. So everyone wins, except the one that are losing their jobs. And this is very possible that you don't move fast enough and you become irrelevant. So let's see a few examples. Hopefully I have here a few examples. No, I don't, sorry. So I'll mention some examples, right? So Netflix and Blockbuster. Right? So the CEO of Blockbuster actually had a chance to acquire Netflix at $50 million. And he said, no, this is niche. This is never going to take up. I'm not going to spend $50 million on that. By the way, if we really want the biggest example of missing out big time, so Google at the beginning did not have funding. And so they thought that they're going to sell their search engine to Yahoo. And they asked for $2 million. And Yahoo said, no, we are willing to pay $1 million. Now, where are these guys today and where are these guys today? Right? Microsoft CEO, when iPhone went out, he said, this is really cute, but it will never take up. It's not going to become significant ever. And this is someone that do understand something about business, right? Kodak. So who invented digital camera? Kodak did. And they did that in their R&D center, and they showed that to the CEO. And the CEO said, shh, don't tell anyone. That's what happened to them. And he buried it within the organization, but obviously that became the thing that eventually killed Kodak. So car industry is very, very interesting because this is going to be the most dramatic changes in the next decade. So in the last 100 years, nothing happened in this industry, right? The same cars that we're driving today used to be here 100 years ago. If you don't believe me, then 100 years ago, the most sellable car in America was Ford. It was black. and it was doing about 16 miles per gallon. And last year, the most sellable car in America was Ford. It was black, and it was doing 17 miles per gallon. Right? Really, nothing has changed. But autonomous, by the way, last year it was Ford F-150, so it was a truck. And 100 years ago, it was Ford T-model. But autonomous cars are going to change everything. So I want you to imagine for a second that there are autonomous cars, right? So we click in the app, and the car shows up, takes us wherever we want to go, and then we click again and the car disappears, right? Now, if this is the case, then maybe we don't need to own a car. We need the app, that's it. And so we, as users, are going to change our behavior, and we're going to consume service rather than consume a product. Now, if this is the case, a lot of industries are going to be affected, because car makers are not going to sell cars. No one is going to buy cars anymore. Actually, the number of cars on the road, or the number of cars that will be sold 20 years from now, is going to be only 20% than the number of cars sold today. So much smaller market for the car makers. If they don't adapt their business model, they will die. The current infrastructure is built to deliver millions of cars, and they will need to deliver 20% of that. If you don't adjust your business to that, you will die. Now, the reality is that what is going to change is the business model. Instead of buying cars, we will be buying service. But there are many other markets that will be affected because of that, right? So if you have driving school, find a different business. You know, so we think of our kids, and most of them are driving, but our grandkids are not going to drive. In fact, we will need to tell them that we used to drive a car, and they will not believe us. So you don't believe me, okay? So when I was young, when I was at elementary school, so one day, I asked my dad to drive me to school, and the school was less than half a mile away, really, so walking distance, and that's Israel in the 70s. There were not a lot of cars, and so I asked him to drive me to school, and he said, "This is less than half a mile away, you can walk there." I said, "But I don't feel like walking today, take me to school." And then he said, "You know, when I was your age, I ride a donkey to school." And I did not believe him. So when we will tell our grandkids that we used to drive a car ourselves, they will not believe us. If you are selling car insurance, this market is going to be dramatically changed, right? If you have parking garage, that will change dramatically as well. No one would need parking garage. Another category that is very, very interesting is what happens if we don't know how much we are paying, right? So lack of transparency. So this is about fees. Maybe this is about the mechanic. When we go there, we don't know how much we are paying. Maybe it's about airfare that we don't know. By the way, I already built startups for these three. Maybe it's about medical services, right? So medical services in the US are 5 times more expensive than they are in the UK. Now, it's not that they're better, they're simply more expensive. So obviously there is some sort of inefficiency in the system. Maybe it's about hiring, right? So we go to someone that will help us to hire, but in reality, we need to do something completely different there. So this is me. I'm a serial entrepreneur and disruptor, and there is even a thinner version of me in the picture. And I build those startups that are looking to create a lot of value to a lot of people, so doing good and doing well. And I start, depending on the year, but usually 1 to 3 new startups every year. And here are some of them. So WAZE, we are familiar with WAZE. Anyone here is not using WAZE? Anyone here really likes traffic jams and not using WAZE? So Move It is like WAZE, but for public transportation, actually answering the same question that WAZE does. How do I get from here to wherever I want to go right now, but using public transportation? And the interesting part is that this is actually growing faster than WAZE. And very powerful in a lot of places. Now, in reality, traffic jams happens because we create them. And I think I have here something about traffic jam. I'll get to that in a second. So this is movie. FX deals with the biggest secret in the world: financial fees. In the US alone, there are $600 billion of financial fees every year. 600 billion. And the scary part is that people don't even know that they're paying them. And when I was young, my dad once told me that if you don't know how much you're paying, then you're paying too much. And this is really the case here, right? So 2009, I looked at my annual statement. I realized that in addition to losing money on the market, they charged me 1.5% fees for losing money on my retirement plan, right? And the scary part for me was that I didn't know that I'm paying them. And I started to ask my friends how much fees you're paying, and none of them knew. So for a second I would say, okay, so just imagine, do you even know how much fees you are paying on your retirement plan? And if we don't know how much we are paying, then we are paying too much. This is why we built FX. FX actually figure out how much fees you're paying, exactly how much fees you're paying, and showing that to you in dollars, not in basis point, not in any other different ways of hiding the information, and then telling you how much it's going to accumulate between now until you retire, and what to do in order to reduce that. Rumor is a marketplace for non-refundable hotel reservation. So just imagine that you make travel plans, and you make hotel reservation, and you change your plans, and you get stuck with reservations that you cannot use. Then simply sell the reservation to someone else and recover some of the losses, and someone else is going to enjoy an expensive reservation. And by the way, hotels like that, because the hotel business model is that they're making 30% of the revenues from food and beverages and incidentals, so they want someone to be in the room. Zik is another marketplace for store credit. Or gift cards, right? So imagine that you return something to the store and you get the store credit that you can use within the chain. Turns out that 30% of those are never being used, 30%. Now this is $100 billion a year of real money that no one is using. So simply sell that to someone else. NG deals with the frustrations of going to the mechanic. So if I will take my car to the mechanic, whatever they will say, I will say okay, because I have no clue, right? So if they will tell me that I need to replace the carburetor in my car, then I will say, okay, go ahead and replace the carburetor. Now, there is only one problem. There is no carburetor in my car. They don't make car with carburetors for 2 decades now. So NG is an app running on the smartphones, connects to the car computer, doing the diagnostics for you, telling you what's wrong, and then asking mechanics to quote to repair that. So empower the driver not only with the knowledge, but also with the ability to do price comparison. Because otherwise today we can't, right? You go to the mechanic and they say, okay, leave the car here, and they will call you at the end of the day and say that you need to replace the carburetor, right, or whatever. Fairfly deals with the biggest secret in the travel industry. This is what happened to airfare after we book our flight. Now we don't know because we don't check it. No one does. Before, we will go to Kayak or Travelocity or Expedia and compare prices, and we will even notice that prices are going up and down. And then we make the reservation, and then what happens? Prices are keep on going up and down. And sometimes they would actually drop dramatically. So what Fairfly does, monitor your own itinerary, and if the price drops and drops below cancellation fees, then you can actually rebook the same flight at a cheaper price. So I just renew my car insurance, and immediately after that there was a new regulation that gives a different discount, and so I asked my agent to recalculate that and say, okay, the new one is cheaper, but you cannot change. So what do you mean you cannot change? Well, you cannot change. And I say, okay, then cancel the previous one, and I'll reissue a new one. And so this is really the issue here. It's not that you cannot change. Sometimes no one wants to deal with that, but if there is a system that monitors that for you and tells you that right now you can actually, collect money that you left on the table, then we should. Spamoff is my son's startup, and it deals with SMS spam, which is actually illegal in Israel, and this is depending on the regulation. This is the first startup that I'm building dealing with regulations that does not work. So the regulation in Israel is that if you send an SMS spam, then you're actually violating the law, and you should be compensating the recipient with $250 or that order of magnitude. But in order to do that, you need to take them to court. No one does, right? So we built a system that actually enables you to do that in a single click. And guess what? All of a sudden, the number of lawsuits against the spammers increased from about 100 a year to about 5,000 a year, and they simply stopped. So and this is, by the way, the first one. There are many regulations that don't work, and you can do many things about it. I think I'm actually using the wrong version of the presentation here. I want to switch to actually, no, you know what, I'll skip that. So maybe one more story, and this is it. And so earlier today, there was someone that told me that his son refused to drive someplace because there was not enough data plan on his phone to actually figure out where to go, so use WAZE. So here are two stories, amazing stories about WAZE. So a lot of people come to me and say, thank you, because of WAZE we can drive in Mexico City. Where is she? Over there. And because otherwise it's a nightmare, right? If you're coming from the outside and driving here. But about a year ago, someone came to me and said, thank you, you saved my marriage. I said, what? And he said, well, because of WAZE, I don't need to argue anymore with my wife, so you saved my marriage. So I turned out to be a marriage consultant as well. But the best story I owe to my son. And I have 5 children, and so one that is 23 years old, I have also a 19 years old son. And he started to drive about 2 years ago, and he really likes to drive. So he would, if he needs to go to his next door neighbors, he would drive the car there. And so one day, I asked him to drive me to the airport. And he said, my phone is broken, I can't. And I said, what do you mean you can? Here's the car, here are the keys, drive me to the airport. He said, my phone is broken, I don't know how to get there. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be in the car with you and I'll tell you how to get there. And then he said, and how would I come back? Thank you.